Welcome in. We have some breaking news today. It looks like the Vikings are moving on from Dalvin Cook. And coincidentally, we just happened to have a show that we were going to do about Dalvin Cook. So it's very exciting. Conan, tell the people a little bit about what you have about Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I mean, all off season so far, I've just been trying to answer the question of what am I supposed to do with Dalvin Cook? Like in Dynasty right now, obviously he's been a top 12 back a couple years whenever he gets that work. Even last year, he finished top 10 despite having a career low yards per carry, but he gets that sweet volume over 300 rushes and receptions combined. Um, but really, it's just been: are they going to cut him? Are they going to move on? Or is he going to get traded? Or is he going to be back for another year? And really, between those two options, it's like if he's back for another year, we're likely looking at okay, like one more year, locked and loaded. Maybe the efficiency's down a little bit, but we're still likely looking at a good amount of work. And then, but if that's not the case and he's gone, well, now we're wheels up for Alexander Mattison, who we've definitely seen take over and do, very, very well in spot starts when Cook is injured. So it's just been a confusing kind of question that I've wanted to dig into a little bit, and I think we'll, find out some answers as we talk it through.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully there hasn't been any news about Dalvin Cook in the 3 hours between recording this and releasing it. But, uh, you know, if the Vikings release him, it would leave them with not much. Alexander Mattison, Ty Chandler, Kenny Wangu, and the seventh round pick, DeWayne McBride, that they picked this year would be their backups. That seems a little insufficient to me. I think they would add someone in that case. For me, if they release Dalvin Cook, then Alexander Mattison would be a massive sell. He is just a guy. I don't know how much we're going to talk about Mattison. I mean, I don't think that was really the point too much of this, but Mattison would be a huge sell. And it'll be interesting to see where Dalvin Cook lands. I'll definitely would cover that in the video if the release happened. And then if another signing occurs, I definitely cover his fantasy value in the new place. But for now, I have Alexander Mattison at running back 39 in Dynasty. If Cook were cut, looking at where I have some players, I'd probably move him up to maybe about 31, which I can tell you people would have him a lot higher. So he would be a huge sell for me. But let's go back to Dalvin Cook, because I think he's the focus of today's episode. And I want to hear a little bit more. Conan brought us I'm looking at the show sheet, a lot of interesting statistics about Dalvin Cook. So why don't you just share some of your favorite things that you learned while you were doing your research?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like I said, he, finished top 10 again with all the elite volume he's received, a couple years in a row now when he's not injured. But like I said, career low yards per carry. And so the efficiency was down. So I wasn't too surprised to find he actually led the league in an amount of rush attempts that went for 0 or negative yards. And so he had
good.
six. No, not at all.
Yeah.
You don't want to lead the league in that. So 61 of his 264 rush attempts went for 0 or negative yards. It's about 23%. But like I said, league most. And so, not great to look at. And so I wanted to dig in a little bit, like, what did the team do a little bit differently maybe? And sure enough, their run pass ratio certainly jumped in terms of, they were 58.5% passing in just overall in 2021. That jumped all the way up to 64% in 2022. So just in terms of, just the rushing volume is just getting slimmed down a little bit. And so that 64% passing rate, that's only the Bucks and the Chargers threw the ball at a higher rate. And if that meant, more and more and more targets for Cook, that'd be great, but it's not something that's looked to be on the upward trend in terms of his receiving volume. It's just kind of something that's like saved him recently.
Well, yeah. I mean, they also brought in Jordan Addison. So I don't think his receiving volume is going to go up. I mean, Adam Thielen was totally washed last year. I think Jordan Addison as a rookie is going to be better than what Adam Thielen was last year. So I don't think the receiving volume is going to go up. I do want to bring one interesting thing about Dalvin Cook. He had almost 2/3 of the carries on the entire Vikings team, but only scored 8 of the 18 rushing touchdowns. So there is a possibility if you were in the same situation that the touchdowns could go up. He was not very lucky in terms of touchdowns. Hasn't been the last 2 years. In 2021, 249 carries and only 6 touchdowns. This year, 264 carries and only 8 touchdowns. Those are kind of unlucky for someone with that kind of volume. You would think someone with 240, 260 touches would have double-digit touchdowns, especially on a good offense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's definitely below league average in terms of amount of carries translating into touchdowns. And I mean, like you mentioned, the team added Jordan Addison. I think he was a consensus top 3 wide receiver in this year's
Oh,
rookie
absolutely.
class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people even had him, 1 or 2. So
I
and
had him
then
at 1 at the beginning of the process, actually. But then
yeah,
the combine put JSN way ahead, and he never looked back.
yeah, and I think that's fair, but still, a great talent that the team added. Like you said, I think way more production even in year 1 than Thielen gave them last year. I think is a reasonable expectation. And then now the team added Hawkinson midseason. Now you have a full offseason of familiarity with the team, and it's just like that could mean that high pass ratio that the team went from 58.5 to 64. I don't see room for it to go up that much higher, but that trend of it staying in those 60s, low to mid 60s, I think that's certainly very possible. And yeah, I mean, so the one thing that kind of could mean okay news, I guess, for Dalvin in terms of having his rushing volume kind of go down a little bit is that when the team is in shotgun, so when Kirk Cousins is lining up in shotgun formation, obviously a little bit more obvious passing down. But Dalvin Cook was out there for 95 snaps in when Kirk Cousins was out in shotgun formation. He actually had almost a 60% rush share, which isn't that high, obviously, but he had a 38% target share when he was out there in shotgun formation with Kirk Cousins. So, there's a little bit of a, silver lining, even if his rushing volume goes down a little bit. But that's where, this question comes back and is so tricky is, if he's there, if he maintains the similar usage as he's had in years past, maybe we're looking at, okay, he's still a later RB1 or, high RB2, but we have no idea. And now with today's news, we're definitely leaning on the side of he's gone.
So given your research, would you prefer him to stay or leave? What would you prefer?
I mean, I think in terms of if you have him in any dynasty leagues and stuff like that, like you probably want him to stay. Like I don't think he's going to receive the volume he does in Minnesota anywhere else. And so I think if he at least stays, I think you're looking at least one more season of okay, maybe it might drop down to higher RB2, middling RB2, but at least usable running back usage. I think if he's cut and he goes elsewhere, maybe there's 1 or 2 teams that have a very, very obvious need where someone has the potential to come in and take.
Which teams would those be?
I mean, I know the Buccaneers recently came out and they said they want to add a veteran guy. Obviously, they have Rashad White, but so there's maybe 1 or 2 teams where there's room at least for anywhere near that similar usage, but basically anywhere else he goes, he's likely not looking. I mean, 300 plus rushes and receptions. Like, I don't know where that's going to happen.
I don't know if there's a role out there where the volume is there. In terms of the volume, I think I'd rather him stay. In terms of places where he could go and have better fantasy value, it's tough. I mean, a lot of the places he might land, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, wouldn't that be interesting? James Cook and Dalvin Cook in the same backfield. I actually don't think it's a bad fit. Those would not be increases. Those would be decreases. The Bucs are a terrible offense. Rashad White is much more scary than Alexander Mattison. So Baker Mayfield is a disaster. So that's one of the worst landing spots. But there is one landing spot where he could go and have a lot more value than he does now. It's the same one that we always talk about. It's Kansas City.
Uh,
Kansas City. If he goes to
yeah.
Kansas City, I don't care that the volume is going to be a little bit less. The offense is great. Patrick Mahomes does actually throw to the running back. They have Jerick McKinnon, but I don't think Jerick McKinnon is much compared to Dalvin Cook. He can go to the Kansas City Chiefs. That would be somewhere where he would really fit in excellently. But a lot of the other landing spots that I see as reasonable, the Bills, not good. The Buccaneers, not good. I mean, where else could he even go? Where else even needs a running back at all? The Rams.
Miami.
The Rams need a running back. That is not good. That is a major downgrade. Miami would be good. It's less likely because they now drafted A-Chain and recommitted on contracts to Mostert and Wilson. I could see them doing it, but I'm not sure. A-Chain scares me a lot more than Mattison. And I don't. The volume's not going to be there. They're going to rotate running backs, and they're not Kansas City. So that one is another landing spot that's okay. There's one other that I would point out. The Bengals. The Bengals could just sign Dalvin Cook and cut Joe Mixon. If they don't want to deal with Joe Mixon, they could just sign Dalvin Cook and cut Mixon. So that is one where I think he would be fine. Because Mixon's been fine, and I think Dalvin Cook is a better player than Joe Mixon. He's always been better. We talked about that many times on the show, how Dalvin Cook is elite and Joe Mixon is not. He's just good. Volume based.
We could have done the same segment for Joe Mixon,
Absolutely.
back and forth.
Oh,
are they going to
come? Done the same.
Although it sounds like more recent things they've said, it looks like he's more likely to stay on the team than I think Cook at this point.
I think that's very simple. It's very simple. There's no Alexander Mattison on the Bengals. There's no Alexander Mattison there. There's no one there who's okay. If you cut Joe Mixon, you need to replace him with two people. You need two more people to come there to fix it. Whereas on the Vikings, if you just signed like Ezekiel Elliott and Alexander Mattison, is that the best backfield? No, but it's okay. The Bengals have just nothing. Chase Brown is nothing. He's a 5th round pick. We don't know what he is. So I do think the Bengals keep Joe Mixon. Dalvin Cook, I think, will be interesting. I do think there's room to renegotiate that contract. There's $6 million of difference in the cap money between dead cap and cap hit. I think there's a middle ground that can be found, but I think Dalvin Cook's going to have to give a few million back if he wants to stay, and that's really up to him. We'll have to see what he wants to do. But yeah, is there anything else you want to add about Dalvin Cook?
No, I mean, I think you briefly mentioned, obviously, the team drafted in the 7th round DeWayne McBride. He kind of projects as like an early down thumper. He had elite rushing production at UAB, but again, he's not going to be out there. He had 5 receptions in his entire college career.
I wrote about him for DLF. I didn't love it.
Not an every down kind of player, but like I said, 1st and 2nd down might be someone that might work his way in sooner rather than later, especially if obviously Cook is gone. So just a name to kind of keep an eye on later in your rookie drafts. I think you can get him in the 4th round, sometimes undrafted. So yeah, no, I think that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone who watched or listened, and we're gonna have a lot more episodes like this. There were 4 in this series, and then we're gonna get together and do a lot more recordings. But yeah. And if the Dalvin Cook news actually happens, if he's cut, I'll do another short video, short reaction. But until next time, thanks for watching or listening. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And peace.